Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you're in Chippendale, Sydney, and you want to celebrate a special someone or a special occasion, then there aren't many restaurants that impress better than Jung Sung, a contemporary Korean restaurant situated in the iconic Old Rum Store building. And today I'm joined by Dan Freene, owner of said restaurant, who dabbles in a couple of other pursuits, which I'm sure we'll talk about as well. Dan, thanks for taking the time.
All good. Great. Glad to be here.
So, Dan, tell us a little bit about who you are and what Jung Sung is actually about.
Okay, so Jung Sung is it's in the name. It's a contemporary Korean restaurant. So it's a fusion between traditional Korean cooking and modern Australian. Like our dishes are it's hard to sort of put a word on them, but they are. I would say our food is very pretty. It's very pretty to look at. We spend a lot of time getting our plating right, and so appearances are a major part of our offering, and our taste. The taste of our food is like there's really nothing like it in Australia. It's quite a new sort of thing, a Korean fusion. There's a couple of restaurants in New York who we kind of like in New York and also in Seoul that we kind of based our menu upon. But yeah, like our dishes are really pretty. It's and also our restaurant is very much a New York inspired. It's like a loft warehouse, like a glass box, if you want to call it that, on the top of an old historical building in Kensington Street, Spice Alley.
I love it. Love it. Yeah. So if you can't get to New York,
Yeah,
like I haven't been in a few years, we'll give you some nostalgic vibes. No, that's awesome.
yeah. It really does feel like you're in New York when you sit there, because it's like the space. Like I said, it's a warehouse architectural space, but when you look out at the buildings, you're up 3 floors, and it's really unique. It's a beautiful space by day and by night.
Lovely, lovely. So before I go back on to the restaurant and just about what you guys have been doing there and what the challenges you guys have been dealing with, you've actually got a very handy second profession. I call it a profession because I've seen your work and it's not like hobbyist level. Like you've actually got a second profession, which I think is very complementary to the fine dining restaurant industry. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So look, in fact, it's really my first profession because I've been doing it for 20 years. So I'm a professional cinematographer, and so I film documentaries, films, TV shows, and TV commercials in Sydney and Asia and the world.
Wow, that's insane. Those two very different things, molding those together. That I don't know where you get the time. That's amazing.
No, neither do I.
The core of what I want to talk to you about today and why we're really interested to talk to you about is obviously hospitality. So it depends on when you guys are watching this being replayed, but obviously this week is Freedom Week, apparently. So in New South Wales, anyway. So hospitality is getting back, back to business. So as someone in the industry, right? Talk to me about some of the challenges you guys have been facing. I know you're gearing up for a big launch this weekend, so best wishes with that. But talk to us about the high level challenges you guys have experienced.
Well, like the interesting thing with hospitality is that as an industry, we were already in a slight spot of bother with the way the first lockdowns rolled out. The industry really relies quite heavily on foreign what do you call it, like foreign labor. So something like, I looked at a stat the other day, something like 47% of people that work in hospitality in our major cities come from abroad, and since the last lockdown, we haven't been able to lift our visitation entries into Australia, and as a result, our industry, we are really struggling with staff and have been. And it's strange. It's front of house is not such an issue. Like we can find good wait staff, but really, really highly qualified and trained chefs are really hard to come by. Sous chefs, pastry chefs, and then also even things like bartenders are just impossible to find. And this was an issue for the industry as a whole before the second lockdown had occurred. And then the second lockdown has happened. So, all of us are in a similar position where I think you'll find that just about every restaurant I know are looking for staff, are trying to hire staff. We have been fortunate enough to hold on to ours during the lockdown period. So, the state government put in place a job saver scheme, which allowed us to pay our staff during that period and be able to hold on to them. So when we do return this Friday, we do have staff, but it's an ongoing issue. So that's a trick.
So I'm really curious, as someone who leads teams myself, like as you know, I want you to put on, I guess, your leadership hat for a second. What advice would you give to a restaurant owner struggling to, keep good people? Like I'm sure there's a job keeper, but obviously it's testament to the culture you guys have built at the restaurant. People leave managers, they don't leave jobs per se. So what's worked well for you guys to keep those, those key staff members?
Look, I think, during this period, just constant communication with people, because it was a very tough period for everyone. I think as soon as anyone has had their livelihood taken away from them and they're reliant on a handout, a pitiful handout at that, I'm thankful for the handouts we were getting from the state government, but for some people, like a lot of staff that work in hospitality and really live sort of like week to week, as soon as you sort of take away their livelihood, all of a sudden they're kind of right on the edge of life not looking so peachy. So it's a really tough time. So we made sure we made constant contact with all of our staff, letting them know what we're doing, what's happening, what we require from them. Yeah, just total communication the whole time. And then and just constant updates of what we are looking to do to improve, our restaurant as we move forward. And then, of course, like I think a big part of like running any business is you need to be able to offer skin in the game to your people. And we do that with our managers and our head chefs and staff members. Like if we can reach a few different target levels, people get remunerated quite handsomely, and so that way a business becomes their business. It's like I never really look at anything going, oh, this is my business, and like it's the business, and we're in the sort of game of trying to make it as sharp and as successful as it can be. But like, the only way that you get everyone to lift in the same direction is to make sure that they've got skin in the game.
Yeah, I mean, you feel it, don't you, Dan? Like you just feel it, and you probably more than most. You can tell you have to take care of the culture. It doesn't matter what business it is, and service industry is where you are wearing your heart on your sleeve. People will see it. You've got to take care of the culture of that place, and then they take care of the customers. Then they're not getting annoyed and frustrated, and so you definitely see that, and that's something definitely you guys. I haven't been there yet. I haven't had the pleasure being at Jung Sung, but after your little intro there, I think I will be very soon. Yeah. But I've heard lovely things. I know you guys do that quite well there. So in our pre-production call, Dan, you're talking a little bit about cash flow, right? Obviously, like there's certain. Obviously, you had perishables you had to get rid of. You've had to clean out the fridges and all that type of stuff. And cash flow has been like a real I guess a concern or a consideration. So what have you been doing? Like obviously you got to spruik up the place and make it look as good as new, if not better. How have you been handling the cash flow situation?
like it took a while for the federal and state governments to figure out how they were going to handle this second lockdown. So for about 6 weeks there, we had zero cash flow, and so it's pretty tricky there for a while. Like you literally just holding the fort and just trying to contact absolutely, because in any business there's a lot of ins and outs, but particularly in a restaurant business there's so many different moving parts. Like got so many different suppliers and there's so many different things that are happening. So it's just a case of just going through everything, calling everyone, letting them know where we're at, which early days was quite uncertain. We started a DIY meal kit, which we send out weekly now, which has been very nicely received. And it's a really good meal kit. It's really yummy.
A DIY meal kit. How does that work? Is that for customers or?
Yeah. So what it is, it gets sent out, and it's like it's pretty much like most of it, everything in it is prepared, apart from a couple of little key things that you cook at home. So you bring it home and it's all packaged, and you open it up, and with ours, for example, like the only thing that really needs to be cooked is the current offering is just this, like these little bits of pork that need to be cooked, and so that was something that we took on just to help.
I love that because I have been thinking, because obviously some of the lower tier, like your Rachets or your little burger joints, they've been able to turn their businesses into take away very easily, but you guys are fine dining.
Well, exactly.
I've been thinking, how does a fine dining business adapt to the new normal? So that's something that worked for you guys. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's something that worked. And look, I think we'll probably keep it rolling too. It's going to be really tricky to see how people react and respond. And like I know that a lot of people are really, really keen to get back out and to get back out dining. We've sort of seen with our bookings, this weekend is a little slow, but then the weekend after it really picks up. So I think it might take people a little bit of time to get back up to speed to feel properly comfortable with going out and dining again. Yeah. My feeling is like we'll probably start to see regular sort of turnover in business by about November. Is what I personally think will happen. And then come December, it'll be great. Come to 1st of December, I think people will just it'll be back to normal operation. I think people will have put the pandemic behind them. I think.
I was going to say at that point, non-vaxxed people can go out too. So that
that's exactly right.
You see that other wave.
Yeah, look, and I personally, I think that once it's carte blanche and it's open for everyone, then I think that it becomes something that people don't really even think about anymore, and then they're just back to normal. So
yeah, absolutely. I think I like the idea how you sort of talk about, and for anyone who's listening who's running that business of that stature or aspiring to be a business like Jung Sung, the fact that you guys are thinking to maintain some of those things like the DIY kits, because if you didn't learn from last year's lockdown and you're not going to learn from this year's lockdown, what are you going to do with 2023's lockdown? Do you know what I mean? We may still have these waves. So businesses need to think about these contingencies, like a lot of, this better than me, a lot of restaurants started dark kitchens and whatnot, but, they're learning from the process. So that, that's really, really important. Just in regards to your opening up this weekend, what have you guys been focusing on? Like, the marketing side, has it been more just operations? What are you guys doing, and for that exciting launch?
It's a combination of everything. We've created a new spring menu, so we had a taste testing of that last week and did a photo and video shoot for that last Friday. So that's all being drip fed out now via our marketing channels. And really that's our focus at the moment. Like we've got our restaurant operations really aren't going to change all that much. We do have a new another new menu dropping. So we've got a we're turning our restaurant into an Anju bar after hours, like on Friday and Saturday nights from 10 p.m. onwards. And Anju is a Korean word for bar snacks. So we're offering Anju after hours from sort of like 9:30 to midnight Friday and Saturday night. So we've been working on that as well. And yeah, now it really at the moment it's just it's making sure our staff are back up to speed. Our chef is in the kitchen all this week, just prepping everything and getting everything ready to roll. And we've had a bit of new fit out. Done some new things to the fit out of the restaurant, and we've put in some new lighting. We'll talk about that in a second, I guess, about the lighting, but that's a big part of it. So and now we're just sort of focusing on marketing and our offers. We've got Melbourne Cup coming up as well too, which will be a big day for us. Yeah,
exciting. I mean, it gives different meaning to the saying it's been a long time between drinks. When I think about your bar opening, that's it definitely has been a long time. So you just on the lighting too, and the lighting is really interesting because I've seen some of the photo, and I haven't seen some of your new ones, but some of the photos coming out recently, with the NEOZ lamps there, and it just the way it makes the food look like it looks so stunning. So. Yeah, and it is such a low cost way of doing that. So just from your own mouth, not mine. How have the lamps helped you transform the atmosphere?
Well, so like I mentioned, our restaurant it's essentially a glass box that sits on top of this old building. Now, which is an awesome sort of space to be in because it's this architectural, just like really sort of like square shape with glass on 3 walls, so you can see everywhere. But with that sort of design of a restaurant, like it's very, very hard to get the light onto the table because the ceiling is like, I don't know, it's probably like 4 meters up. So it's it's not a super high ceiling, but it's high enough that you really want to get the light down onto the plate, so it's not so you're not relying on like hot downlights from above, which is what we've had in the past. And so we looked around for a long time trying to find something that we could put on the table, and well, it was either we put something that's battery operated on the table because we don't want to pollute the restaurant with cables, or we look at sort of having drop down lights from above, but that was going to cause issues because we constantly change the shape of the of the tables of our restaurant depending on what the night has in store. So if we've got a group of 12 or a group of 4, your tables move. So like if you've got fixed light positions, that also doesn't work. So we looked around and we came across the NEOZ lamps. We were actually out at another venue in Barangaroo, and we saw these things, and I was like, wow, that looks pretty cool. And I was thinking that must be like some sort of European thing. And then when we researched it, we found out that it was an Australian company, and these things are just amazing. You're talking about something that sits about 300 mil high off the table, battery operated, rechargeable, 12-hour battery life, dimmable if necessary. And we had a good look at them, and we brought a couple in, and we looked at all the different types of lamps they had, and we settled for our restaurant on one called the Tall Poppy, which is a matte black lamp. Like I said, it sits 300 mil high. It's a little downlight, so it puts light right on the table. And so when we operate our restaurant now, we are only going to use those lights in the restaurant because there's enough ambient light coming from the bar and everywhere else. So it's going to create a really beautiful mood in the restaurant. It's very romantic.
Yeah, I think for you guys, and obviously this sounds very biased, but I think you just have to see it to believe it.
Yeah.
When in the start, when you're talking about, the fact that for you guys, you take a lot of pride in that pageantry,
Yeah,
like
we do.
just
Yeah.
hearing you talk about food is amazing, because like someone like yourself understands the way food is presented and looks has a lot to do with the taste.
Yep.
And the lamps do that. They kind of, have this nice warm glow that kind of highlights that. And talk to me about, so, NEOZ talks a lot about the system. NEOZ often sells the system. You have your trays and whatnot.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Talk to me about NEOZ as specifically as a system, for your restaurant and your own processes of winding down for the night,
Well,
starting off for the night.
That's where the product sort of the NEOZ product really really takes things to another level, because like unlike other rechargeable products, which we did have a look at, you've got to recharge them in via their own sort of USB cable, and when you've got sort of like 20 tables like we do, that's a bit messy. Somewhat, it's like there's got to be some sort of recharging nest for these products anyway. And so the NEOZ lamps come with this really clever, it's like a 12 1 2 3 4 by 3, it is 12, like it's kind of like a
tray.
Yeah, it's a tray, and the lights just pop on top. It's really brilliant, and very easy for our staff, because it's just they just go around, pick up the lights, drop them on the tray, boom, and the next day that's it. They're ready to go.
Yeah, dummy proof. No, switch this on and plug that in, and as long as the tray or trolley is plugged in, then you're fine, and the light turns on. And yeah, I love that. Okay, yeah. I understand you've actually got a couple in your home as well, so that's also the tall poppy. You also have them.
Yes.
The same one.
Well, yeah. I use it as a bedside lamp. It's fantastic.
Yeah, so I'm curious, like how, like what's the experience like at home compared to obviously it's very different. At home, you're using it as bedside. Maybe when people come over at the restaurant, it's a little bit different. Why do you like them at home? What's your vibe about them at home?
Well, like I'm just one of these people that absolutely just hate cables. Like I've been around cables my entire life. I work in the film industry, and and we've seen changes such as like cordless and battery operated lights affect the film industry quite a lot too. So, for example, like whenever I shoot like documentary interviews, often you're in like an environment where it can be a live environment, so that you don't, the last thing you want is like power cables sort of running everywhere, because people can trip on them and it can be dangerous and what have you. And then at home, it's the same thing. Like cables are just messy and awful, like I just hate them. They make everything look, they're
yeah, just messy and yeah, at home at a restaurant, like wow, yeah. Disgusting. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and then like in a restaurant, like we just couldn't do it. Like cable, like unless you can, yeah, it's impossible. And then that's why the NEOZ lights are so unique, because they look amazing, they work incredibly well, and most importantly, you can put them on a table and there's not a single cable. It's incredible.
Yeah, no, awesome. Well, thanks for those amazing marketing sound bites, Dan. but obviously, I think it's like I said, the truth is the proof is in the pudding. So, you guys definitely have to check that out, and definitely check out your restaurant. But any sort of passing thoughts? Obviously, we're going to be sharing this with the NEOZ community, the restaurant owners. Any passing thoughts you sort of want to share before I let you go?
Look, the only thing I'll say is that the another thing that we were quite impressed with was, like, I actually went out to where they make the lights, and like it's such a unique little company, NEOZ, because these products have been created on site, they've been engineered on site, and they're built on site. It's very rare that you find products that are sort of this bespoke and this well made in Australia, and at what I would consider a really reasonable price. Like, I was kind of like expecting us to be paying a lot more than what we needed to for such a lovely product, you know. So yeah, I'm a huge advocate for the NEOZ lamps. And like we've got the tall poppy in this restaurant. We've got some other restaurant openings happening sort of in 2022, and whether we go with the tall poppy, it might be something else, but they've got a bunch of different really interesting and really unique designs available.
Modern ones, classical ones. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. And that's the thing too. It depends on the vibe of the restaurant. That's
exactly right.
I love what you guys have done. I'm really, really excited for your launch. I cannot wait to get out there. And not obviously to test the food, but just to see how you guys have transformed the space in such a low cost way. So, Dan, thank you so much. Obviously, we'll share the links, and if you guys are in Sydney, definitely check it out. It looks amazing. I can't wait to check it out myself. And thanks for your time, Dan.
Thank you, Maybe. See ya.